So recently I was receiving my daily dose of Geometry Dash and came to know that new Ascension to Heaven parts have been released. During the video, Vid12 briefly mentions the idea that Ascension to Heaven could be the first Mythic rated top 1. And that really got me thinking, could that actually happen? Because it sounds fairly straightforward. I mean, Ascension to Heaven looks amazing. Is it amazing enough to be above Legendary and become a Mythic level? And will another level get there first? And so in today's video, I'm going to go through all of the factors that I think have a say in whether Ascension to Heaven will be the first top 1 to achieve a Mythic rating. If you enjoyed today's video and you want to see more like it, please subscribe to the channel. You'll see more content like this and it helps out the channel a ton, and you'll be supporting our subscriber race against the population of Liechtenstein, which is a European country with roughly 39,000 residents. Some of you have been threatening to move there, so we really need everyone's help. And with all that out of the way, without further ado, let's get into the video. So to start off, we'll look at some of the new parts that have been released that look absolutely stunning, and then we'll look at whether the gameplay and the decoration are Mythic worthy, as well as other factors that could prevent it from being rated Mythic, and any competition to be the first top 1 to receive a Mythic rating. So to start off with the new parts, a lot of them are of course much farther into the level, and there have been some upgrades to older parts as well, and all of them without exception look absolutely amazing. Once again, all the parts do a really good job of mentioning the intensity of the song, and they stand apart from each other while also keeping the same theme of heaven, of course. On top of this, all of the parts are pretty well optimized, which is something that honestly I wasn't sure would be able to maintain throughout the years. This level has been in production for years now, and even with the optimizations of 2.2 and 2.206, I figured there would at least be some lag, but based off of most of the object counts, it probably will be somewhat okay. But even then, to be fair, it is a 5-minute level, so no matter what, the object count is going to be pretty high. One of my favorite parts is this huge angel that pulses with the music. Really, really cool stuff. So now moving on to the gameplay. Basically, if there's a level that is going to be rated Mythic, it's probably going to have some pretty unique and original gameplay. There are very few levels that have been rated Mythic, and the ones that have been for their original or otherwise outstanding gameplay. Right now, we only have 3 Mythic rated levels, and 2.2 has been out for, believe it or not now, about 6 months. If we're on pace to have roughly 1 Mythic level every couple of months, the Ascension to Heaven's gameplay stand out enough in order for it to be rated Mythic. Personally, I don't think the gameplay itself is really going to get this level very far, but that's partially because basically it's going to be constrained to being the hardest demon in the game, which means there's only so much that it can do in terms of gameplay mechanics without sacrificing that part of the level's identity. Don't get me wrong, the gameplay is original and unique, especially for a top 1. Yes, there is tons of wave and ship gameplay, but it covers pretty much every game mode. It has a lot of flexibility in terms of how enjoyable it can be because it's 5 minutes long. One of the big talking points around Tidal Wave is that it's more enjoyable for top players to play, partially because it's a 3-minute level, while Ascension to Heaven is almost double that, and without a 2 billion year end screen. It also has a lot of free fly ship gameplay, which is really interesting now that 2.2 is out. So even then, a core 2.2 feature can seamlessly be added into this level without it seeming out of place at all, because that was sort of the plan from the beginning. Overall, I'd say the gameplay doesn't really factor into the conversation much, because it's good enough for it to be Mythic rated, but obviously the gameplay itself isn't going to get the level very far. Sure, it stands out as a top 1 and has a really interesting layout, and it's not like it's dragging down the level at all, but it doesn't really factor into the conversation that much. So overall, I wouldn't say the gameplay is Mythic worthy per se, but it definitely doesn't keep the level from getting a Mythic rating. That doesn't mean it's bad gameplay, it means it's just not literally the Towerverse. So the next question is the decoration good enough to be Mythic worthy? In the background right now, I am playing Nexus's run through of Astrolith, which is the only Mythic rated level that is not platformer mode. I think comparing non-platformer and platformer levels together doesn't really make as much sense in this case, so I'm using Astrolith as a comparison. Now, Astrolith has a completely different art style for its decoration. However, I would venture to say that these two are both extremely outstanding levels in terms of decoration, and I think Ascension to Heaven measures up to the qualifications in order for this to be a thing. By the way, it is insane to me that a level like Astrolith has been able to be made this quickly into 2.2. It still has less than 1 million downloads. I would seriously recommend taking a look at this level. And listen, I've been glazing Ascension to Heaven's decoration for years now, and that's not stopping anytime soon. The only contested part of its decoration that people were worried about over a year ago now was that the parts all looked too similar to each other, and honestly, I don't think it was really much of an issue then, and it's especially not an issue now, especially with the newly released parts. And that's, yeah, kind of the end of the conversation there. If you think that Ascension to Heaven needs better decoration, I would genuinely like to hear in the comments, because I cannot think of a single reason why. Unless you're like epileptic, colorblind, or just plain blind. Then, you know what, fair, that's understandable. Of course, a key component of levels receiving a Mythic rating is their originality. They have to really stand out from the crowd in order to not just get a Legendary rating, and so far, the 3 Mythic levels are pretty up there. Personally, I think Ascension to Heaven is extremely original for an extreme demon, and especially for a top 1. And that's without question, but for the overall landscape of Geometry Dash, unlike comparing it to other extreme demons, its theme alone isn't going to immediately make it the best thing ever. There are a few other Heaven-themed levels out there, but I still think that the gameplay and the decoration together, along with the song choice, which we'll get into next, have executed the Heaven theme far better than we have ever seen in the game. And on top of that, it does have the more unique idea of taking the Hell theme for extreme demons and flipping it on its head, so the fact it is meant to be a top 1 extreme demon will probably help it. Not to mention the fact that because something could potentially be top 1, it usually ends up getting rated, even if that same level wouldn't be rated if it was any other difficulty. The prime example being Arcturus, of course. So the originality is there, but there's one other component in whether this level will get a mythic rating or not. That is the song choice. I think the gameplay very well reflects the song, I think the decoration very well reflects the song, and of course the theming very much reflects the song. That coherence is not an issue, it's great, but you used to not be able to get the song on Newgrounds, and RobTop tends to have a bone to pick with Nong songs. But the artist behind the song actually got added to the Geometry Dash music library a few months back, so we're all good. So genuine question, is the artist's name just pronounced XI, or the Roman numeral, I guess, 11, or is it pronounced Chi? So overall, I think all of the factors do point to this level being mythic worthy. The gameplay and the decoration are outstanding, it has a fairly original concept, and it's executed very well, and of course the song is available through the main game, without having to go in and replace it yourself using mods or replacing the actual file. So all that's left now is there any competition to be the first mythic rated top 1, and will Ascension to Heaven be verified fast enough to beat any of that competition? Definitely is some competition to the level, I would say mostly in the form of orochi, or maybe potentially misanthrope, but misanthrope was deader than Drake's career, so I doubt that it will be finished, let alone verified, rated, and placed before all of us are in the nursing home. I'd actually say the main threat to the possibility of Ascension to Heaven being the first mythic rated top 1 would probably be Apocalyptic Trilogy, but even then, I think it's more likely that the Apocalyptic Trilogy will end up getting a legendary, considering that if it is top 1, the gameplay is probably going to play like dog shit. So really it kinda just leaves orochi and maybe potentially a Cherry Team project. And even with that in mind, a lot of Cherry Team's projects aren't even top 1, which, don't get me wrong, is a good thing, and the things that they are aiming to be top 1 are probably not mythic worthy. Like, yeah, Cosmos Unleashed looks really good, but I'm not sure if that would get above Legendary at most, and of course the verification is still a long ways away anyways. So overall, the competition against Ascension to Heaven to be the first mythic rated top 1 is pretty sparse. The competition it does have could be verified before it, so will Ascension to Heaven be verified before the competition gets ahead of it? Well, the verifier of Ascension to Heaven is the non-controversial figure of Denny, who's still pretty good at the game, but it's honestly super hard to predict whether he would be able to verify Ascension to Heaven ahead of any of the other previously mentioned levels, because those previously mentioned levels could be going a lot faster or a lot slower depending on how things pan out over the next couple of years. So honestly, the biggest threat to the idea of Ascension to Heaven being the first mythic rated top 1 extreme demon is just the idea that it could not be verified fast enough, or not finished fast enough, and another extreme demon will take that spot before it does. I think it will undoubtedly receive a mythic rating upon release, which is not something I can say for other levels like Orochi or Cosmos Unleashed, and I do think that it is likely that Ascension to Heaven will be our first mythic rated top 1, but it's not necessarily guaranteed, and gauging how much the chance is that it will become the first mythic rated top 1 is basically impossible at this point in time because everything is so early in production that there's essentially no way of predicting it. That being said, my gut feeling is that Denny will be able to pull through and verify this as the first mythic rated top 1, and then immediately followed up with a premiere rap album. So yeah, that's it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please remember to like and subscribe. Again, helps out the channel a ton. Whatever, you've heard the speech a billion times before. If you would like to, you can join my Discord server, the link is in the description. Thank you all for the support recently, and thank you for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Goodbye!